Why do people think home values will fall? I have heard several people say that now is a good time to sell because home values will fall. For those of you who believe that, why? Seems to me that they are likely to rise further. Interest rates continue to increase and properties values have gone up along with it. Seems like the inevitable drop in rates will make property values spike like they did before. The incumbent administration will likely drop rates when the economy shows any kind of weakness, especially during the 2024 election year. I realize this will be somewhat offset by more inventory, but inventory is still near historic lows. S&D will still be far less than prior to the pandemic. Plus there is less construction going on now than the last couple years. Just wondering what would lead to prices dropping? Inevitably drop in rates. Here's your problem. Why are you convinced rates will fall? If the high interest rates could trigger an economic recession, then that would greatly lower demand even if rates eventually dropped again. And even if the Fed lowers rates, it's unlikely they do so to the extent they did before. So now rates could be 4-5 but with less demand because of economic turmoil. Because assets valuations are inversely proportional to long-term interest rates. On one hand, new home construction isn't keeping up, although apartment construction is hopping lately. On the other, the cost of a house is dramatically higher now than it was 2 years ago and consumes a huge portion of the average household's income. One part of my brain keeps saying a thing that can't go on forever will eventually stop, and the other half is saying yeah, but there aren't enough houses. I do believe long-term interest rates will at least temper or stop asset value increases. Whether they drop I have no idea, and I don't think anybody does. Job losses and forced selling. The same story every time. Supply is low. Interest rates are high. Sellers do not want to lose their current 2.5-3.5 interest rates. My own guess. The market will remain flat and at best prices will go up once the rates go down. They'd only fall if people are willing to sell out of their low rates. Or if developers are willing to increase supply. Simple supply and demand says buyers will only accept the same home at an increased interest rate for a much lower price. And the homeowner refuses because just a year or two ago their homes were extremely expensive and getting high offers. Appraisals are coming in low already where I am. It was 10-20 over ask when rates were low 2 years ago. And now those appraisals aren't coming back at ask even. It is already happening in a minority of locations. That's why I think home values will fall. Because they are. I work in lending. I've seen it before. This isn't a new concept or happening. You just haven't seen it or noticed it in your lifetime. Too many investors in residential real estate. Airbnb margins are going down. That's stage 1. Investors dumping properties is step 2. Spiking unemployment if it happens is step 3. Of what it would take to have a significant housing adjustment. I'm not sure any of this happens, however. I'm still a buyer because of long-term inflationary trends. Rates affect the monthly payment. People care about the monthly payment, not price. Price is reflective of interest payments. Rates are up, prices drop even if payments stay the same. Seems to OP that they're likely to go higher? Zillow and Redfin just released data showing the market is cooling fast. Prices have already fallen in Texas and the Southwest. Rates will only drop for one reason: a recession. When a recession happens, the following usually takes place: as stock market falls first, then job losses, then the housing market. We've seen the first and are only starting to see the job losses. But nothing so bad it's caused people to need to sell their homes. But a deep recession will flood the market with housing supply and there will be a period of Ultra high rates and oversupply and very few buyers, and that could be a disaster. Eventually rates will lower. Jobs come back and prices stabilize. They already have fallen as much as 30 in some of the hottest markets like Austin, Texas. Because people are trying to sell homes they picked up at XXX price for $100,200 more without having done anything outside of a fresh coat of paint. I was working in NY for the 2008 crash. The bubble will bust again. Housing is unaffordable. There's no way it won't bust, it's just a matter of timing. Rates won't fall. Home prices will fall to service the high rates. Home values should fall because of the relatively lower availability of money. Rates will come down eventually, but eventually means 3-5 years, and down means probably 1-2 max. It will be unlikely we see levels 5 in the near future, if again in the next 10-20 years. Affordability goes down. Fewer buyers drive home prices lower, affecting both high and entry-level properties. History and basic economics. SMH, you really don't know how all this works, huh? Simple economics lol. Interest rates continue to increase and properties values have gone up along with it. Median home sales price is down from last year. That trend will continue and pick up speed once people realize rates aren't going to drop back to near zero again anytime soon. If ever. The Fed hasn't blinked and they're not going to. They have a dual mandate, and neither part of that mandate is to keep housing prices artificially high. They're talking about raising rates again already since there was another uptick in inflation. Because it makes me feel better and I'm able to sleep at night if I continue to convince myself that housing prices will fall. They already are dropping in several high-cost markets. Defaults, lots and lots of defaults. I have no idea whether home values will go up or down. I do know that 2 years ago people were saying it was a lousy time to buy because prices would drop soon. I'm glad I didn't listen. Home prices will drop when enough people start losing their homes to cause a surplus. This will happen if the economy tanks and enough people lose their jobs. They already are. The Fed does what the Fed believes is the correct direction to steer the ship and will take zero input from a new president. Sorry. I hate to burst your bubble. Unless Biden or the next president decides to remove Jeremy Powell, then it comes down to the next Fed chairman. If they attempt to reduce rates, we'll just create more inflation. I heard recently that there's not enough homes built after 2008 to keep up with the natural population increase and natural demand, so even if there would have been a crash, it can't be. There's not enough supply regardless. Food for thought. Posts like this and the reasoning why, on top of the ignoring of any evidence to the contrary, only makes me more convinced housing prices will fall drastically. People like to see bubbles burst. I think some legislatively might occur to drive home prices down due to an increase in supply. I could see states start to either tax heavily or legislate away the ability for companies to buy up large numbers of homes and then rent them at high prices. Or start to kill the short-term rental STR market with lots of taxes and regulation. Either or both would make it unprofitable to keep the houses, causing companies and/or owners of STRs to put a large supply on the market, which would drive prices down. Why do you think rates will fall when inflation is getting worse? Sounds like a bunch of bullshit. I personally am going to hold off buying, but I wouldn't go as far as selling. That's extra. Depends on the market. In my home city it's 1/3 to 1/10 the price to buy a house compared to the closest big city. So big city people are coming and willing to buy up property at higher prices. Inflation drives up house prices. They ain't dropping.